Welcome to my 24th video of my 30-day challenge. In this video, we're going to be speaking about the erroneous assumption of the prebiotic conditions that were made by modern researchers of the origin of life. Hi, my name is Eduardo Hernandez. I am the creator of the newest theory on the emergence of life, Emergent Chemical Evolution. I'm also the author of the book by the same name. The book is available on all major online retailers. Well, let's get with it. The assumption that the oceans were basic, homogeneous, and basically barren wastelands with very little organic material, I think is a very misguided assumption that they made, whether they were not specialized or did not do enough research in the subject. I think that was one of the major hindrances of the research conducted in the last 40 to 60 years. Assuming that the pH of the oceans was averaged, and the average would tell you something, is like assuming that knowing the average temperature of the earth could tell you that there's a hurricane in the Bahamas, or that there's a nuclear winter or a snowstorm in Minnesota. The average of any quantity is not going to give you any elucidation of any local conditions that would have been necessary for the reactions that they postulate. Some of these reactions they claim that occurred in puddles, and that through dehydration and hydration cycles, chemical reactions of inorganic matter compounds led to the creation of RNA. Now, the opportunity of compounds being able to create RNA at that stage in the history of the earth is untenable. The amount of impacts and the shallowness of the water would not have been conducive for the survival of RNA molecules, and definitely not the self-replication. They would not have been able to have been long enough to do that. The fact that the earth has been around and been covered, and it's in the fossil record, or in the geological record, that the earth was covered for billions of years with miles upon miles of ocean depth. And that needs to be looked at further. That would have been needed. The fact that right now we have in shallow water the acidification of the oceans, where plankton and hard-shelled animals have it hard to manufacture their shells and maintain their shells in these waters, and the coral reefs being bleached in shallow water due to the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And that increase is only a 0.0035% of the atmosphere. So imagine what it would have been like back then, where the minimum hypothesized amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere at that time is postulated to be 10%. Now, we get such acidification that's detrimental to life as 0.35% of the atmosphere being carbon dioxide. Imagine what it would have been like back then. But the key thing to look at as the effect of the carbonation of the atmosphere is that at shallow depths of the ocean is where we see this acidification. And the reason for that is that the weight of the atmospheric carbon dioxide is greatest at the surface of the ocean. And therefore, as you go deeper into the ocean, that effect is lessened, so the acidification becomes less. Now imagine a 10% minimum of the carbon dioxide laden atmosphere at that time. What kind of acidification gradient would have occurred in the ocean at that time? So that would have been a much suited condition for a better suited condition. No, let me see. There would have been more favorable condition for amino acids to react with each other and react on each other to create RNA and other biologically important molecules like they do today. So you're think about it. Millions of square miles of the surface of the earth covered in water gives those cycles of current and the movement of the contents of the ocean through these pH gradients, millions upon millions of square miles of opportunity for that to do something. But not just millions, it's trillions of locations, trillions upon trillions of locations, because these things are occurring at the molecular level. And you have millions of square miles of Earth's surface. So you have the opportunity at the molecular level, trillions upon trillions of sites around the globe with the same condition. And then not only on the surface, but think about each pH gradient as being a multiple of locations. So you have the different levels with millions of square miles of surface area and trillions of sites, molecular size sites, to do the same thing to these molecules, these organic molecules, to react with each other and on each other. Whereas if you look at the other postulation of the conditions of the earth, was that the event occurred at volcanic vents, and that the volcanic vents are spewing inorganic material that would have had improbable reactions to create organic molecules. And some of them contend that they would create metabolism first, which is totally untenable. You're talking about having byproducts, reverse engineer proteins, which are the engines that create these byproducts. It's like taking exhaust from a car and try to take that exhaust, analyze it, and determine which car, make and model and year made the exhaust. It's not possible. You have so many different variables. First of all, that all cars produce pollution, exhaust. And then the particular car you're interested in, it depends what the driver was, type of gas it was using, whether the car was tuned or not, how well it was tuned, how old it was, how much it was used. It's untenable to go backwards from byproducts to initiate life. The other thing is that volcanic vents only occur at certain sites on the crust of the earth. So they postulated that cyclic systems would form within the region of the volcanic vents, but they're ignoring the currents of the ocean. The ocean would take that material readily and transport it to another site in the ocean. Now, I don't know if people are aware, but when you study volcanic vents, you have to realize that depending on the site of that vent on the surface of the earth would be the contents it spews, the temperature it has, and the chemicals that it's going to react with or produce. So the opportunity of those chemicals to reach a vent, first of all, that there's very few sites on the surface of the earth that would have vents. And then to reach a vent that had the same conditions or favorable conditions to further react those compounds on an earth that has millions of square miles of surface area is also not favorable, is untenable. So again, if you go back to my theory, and millions of miles of ocean, trillions of sites, molecular sites with the same conditions, and these molecules will circulate through them over and over again with the ocean currents. It makes it a much more favorable situation for life to have emerged. And that is the conditions that I feel, well, that I summarize with the research I did, that would have been prevalent at that time and which would have benefited life and made it more probable. I mean, with certain conditions, life is inevitable. All you need is the right conditions and the right contents and the cyclic motion of the chaos engine, which would have been the driving force. The chaos engine, all it is the repeating of passing the same molecules through different cyclic conditions, just like in chaos. You take a process and you keep repeating it, and the conditions change, but they form a pattern. And in this case, the pattern is life. All right. I hope you found it informative, logical, tenable. Please spread the word. Give it a like. And if you care to, buy a shirt or my book. Next time.